Okay, since I'm having so much trouble getting all of the base metals dissolved out of this stuff and getting the gold into solution, I've got the gold pans out, and I'm gonna try panning this down a little bit so I see if I can get rid of some more of this dye debris. You know, 4 trips through the sluice, I'm pretty sure we caught all the metal, but unfortunately I think we caught a lot of the dye debris too. So I'm going to try and reduce the amount of it just so that there's less of a layer of it on top of the metals. Now all the metals in here are going to be a whole lot heavier than the dye debris, so this should actually be pretty easy to pan and get rid of it. Well, we'll get rid of the bulk of it anyway. I don't think I'm going to be able to get rid of all of it, because to get rid of all of it I'd have to lose some of the metal out of here. Now, speaking of losing, every time I get the gold pans out, there's always some know-it-all negative Nelly in the comments or the emails who starts writing me and telling me, oh, you're losing all kinds of gold using a gold pan. That's the wrong way to do it. Well, I'm not losing all kinds of gold, okay? For 3 reasons. Number 1, I know what I'm doing. Number 2, I'm using a catch pan. Everything that comes out of this pan is going in the catch pan down here, so it's not going anywhere. It's still here, and I can rerun the contents of the catch pan through here as many times as I want until I'm sure I haven't lost anything. And the third reason is I'm keeping all my tailings these days. I'm not throwing them out, and I might try some other methods to try and get precious metals out of the tailings in the future, if there's any left. So just, you know, take a deep breath, back away from the keyboard. Not losing any gold here. What I am losing, hopefully, is this lightweight silica dye debris, the leftovers from crunching up the silica dyes in the IC chips. That seems to be coming off quite nicely. I don't know if it's showing up down there, but yeah, this stuff in the catch pan, that's dye debris. So I just agitate it until all the heavy metals are at the bottom, and then I just sort of gently wash the lightweight dye debris off the top. I stop when I start seeing metal. I start seeing some metal wires there, and reclassify it. We got the lightweight stuff to the top again, and then just gently wash the lightweight stuff off. So this is only about half of the second half of material. So I'm doing it in small batches. So I'll do this until I think it's going to be difficult to get any more of the dye debris out. And then I will do the other half. Then I will repan the stuff in here, just to make sure I haven't lost anything. Okay. Well, I've reduced it some. I think that'll do for now. Let me get the other half in here. This is my favorite. It's my favorite pan here for working concentrates. So let me get the other half in here, and I'll reduce it some. Okay. See if I can reduce this down. Yeah, I did a pretty good job. Looks like I reduced it by a fair amount. Let me do it again on this half. Then I'll repan that stuff. Yeah, earlier this year, the wife and I went on a little gold panning and sluicing expedition out in Wyoming. Had a great time. Only got a little bit of gold out of it, but hey, at least next time we know where to dig. You know, you spend half the day just trying to find a place where there is some gold. So I'll put a link to that in the upper right corner. Anybody who's interested in seeing that video. It was a great day out in the Wyoming wilderness. We had a lot of fun. Wife had a lot of fun. That's important. Happy wife, happy life. Yeah, this is reducing down nicely. Okay, that's pretty good. I think I've done a pretty good job of reducing that. Let's see if we can find the gold. There's certainly a lot of copper in there, and probably some steel. Maybe a little bit of aluminum. Now, one question I get a lot is, why do I not take the steel out with a magnet? Or why do I not screen out all this copper wire? Why do I leave it in? Well, when I first started doing this, I did that. I pull the steel out with a magnet, and I'd try to get as much of this copper out as I could. And there's a lot of copper here. Fortunately, I kept that stuff. I didn't throw it away. And one day, just out of curiosity, I ran all of my accumulated stuff. I just threw it in a beaker with a bunch of nitric acid and let the acid dissolve it, and was interested in seeing what was left. And you know what was left? A lot of gold. There was a lot of gold in that beaker. So I dissolved it with aqua regia and had myself some extra gold. Since then, I leave all the metal in. Some of the metal's gold plated, which is where the gold comes from. Some of the metal has gold residue on it. There's a nice piece of gold-plated copper right there. And I know it's not going to show up on the camera. It's really shiny gold-colored on one side, copper-colored on the other. That's a piece of gold-plated copper wire right there. So some of the metal is gold-plated. There's another piece of gold-plated copper up here. And some of it, I think, just has gold stuck on it from having bond wires attached to it in the past. They're sort of heat pressed on. And some of it, I think, is just bond wires that are tangled up with the rest of the metal. You know? I think that's what that is. But whatever reason, this metal contains a fair amount of gold. I mean, you know, I think it's worth going after. Other people might not think so. Other people might think it's not worth it. Use the extra, you know, nitric acid to dissolve it. Boy, this fraction up here is heavy. It doesn't want to move. But, what the heck? Oh, yeah. Starting to see the gold peeking out. So yeah, there's gold bond wires and bits of gold and whatnot. So this blob up here in the top of the pan, this is a lot of gold. There's a lot of gold in that. This stuff up in here is mostly gold. Yep, there's a lot of gold there. Plus there's all that gold-plated stuff down there. So here's my super concentrate. So this stuff was concentrated in the sluice, and now it's been concentrated in the pan. And there's quite a bit less of it. So hopefully the next extraction, once this extraction gets done, will go a little easier. So the next thing I'm going to do is pan out the stuff in the catch pan to make sure I didn't lose anything good. Yeah, I think one thing a lot of people don't get about gold pans and panning in general is that, yeah, okay, they're not 100% efficient. True. In the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing, maybe they're about 90% efficient. So you lose about 10% of your gold. Okay. But if you use the technique I'm using, which has, you know, been known forever and used by all professional prospectors really, of working with a catch pan or some sort of, or working in a tub where stuff can't get away from you, okay. Each time you pan the stuff, you're only getting 90% of what you started out with. The rest of it's going into your catch pan. Okay, so pan out the contents of the catch pan, right? You only get 90% of that. But now you're up to 99%. Alright, 9/10 of it the first time, and then 9/10 of what was left. 99%. You know, you repan your material 2-3 times, you're down to the point of diminishing returns where you're not getting enough material to make it worth your effort anymore. There's probably not going to be enough material in here to make this worth my effort, but I'm still waiting on that stuff in the fume hood. Don't have a lot else to do. So I'll waste a little time repanning this. Okay, so a couple little wires and a couple little fly poop specks of very tiny gold. So that's all I got out of it. So I think we've reached the point of diminishing returns. Anything I've missed in there isn't worth the trouble of panning out again. So, plus I'm keeping this stuff, you know. I'll try smelting it sometime in the future, see if I can wring any more value out of it. But for now, I'm done with it. Alright, now that my big 3-liter beaker is free, I can get the rest of the concentrates in it. So this is the stuff that's been sluiced and panned. Let's see if I can get it moving out of here. There, I hope that's showing up. I can't really see it on the viewfinder, but there's the gold. So I hope it's showing up. Ooh, my battery's almost dead. Okay, let me get this in the fume hood and get started on it. I've got the final batch of stuff here that's been sluiced and panned. So this is the finally bit of the material from that batch of eBay IC chips. And I've got the liquid here that I used with nitric acid to take off the base metals from the last batch, and I'm pretty sure there's still some active nitric in here, so I'm going to put this in. I'm not going to forget this time. I'm going to put this in. Even if there's not active nitric left in here, this liquid has all of the accumulated silver in it so far from all of these IC chips from this eBay purchase. So I want to continue enriching it in silver and try to get the silver back out of it at some point, because that silver is always a nice little bonus. I'm going to put a little extra nitric acid on it. I'm going to open up a new bottle here. And start, okay, so I guess there wasn't a lot of extra nitric acid left in that stuff because we didn't start getting a reaction until I put some of this fresh on it. Put a little bit more on it because I know there's a lot of base metal in there. I sure could see it. Lid it up. Close this up before the fumes get to me. Turn the heat up a little bit. And we are off with the last base metal extraction from the last bit of that IC chip stuff. Wow. Is that a reaction or what? Very cool. Okay. I'm thinking that having less material down there, yeah, the acid's really getting in touch with the base metals in there and attacking them really well. So that's good. That's a good sign as far as I'm concerned. Okay, gonna let that cook. Still got quite the vigorous reaction going on over here. Lots of fumes. I mean, it has slowed down a little bit, but still a lot of fume production. So those base metals going into solution. Well, we're getting near the end on the base metal extraction on this. The reaction has slowed down a whole lot, and I have stopped just dumping nitric acid in. I'm putting it in like maybe 3-4 milliliters at a time and just letting it sit and cook. And it's a lot slower that way than dumping a lot of acid in, but it's also going to be less wasteful of acid, which is the most expensive reagent in this whole process by far. The nitric acid is. So it's going to take a little while, but I want to try and get more of the base metals out of this than I have been doing up till now with the other 3 batches I've run. They've all turned green in the end, and I don't have high hopes for this batch either, but I want to try and get as much of the base metal out as possible, especially the silver. All along we've been concentrating the silver in this blue liquid, and once the reaction seems to be done, I'm going to decant off this blue liquid, and I want to try and get the silver back out of it. So I want to get as much of it in here as possible. I don't want to leave any to wind up as silver chloride once we go to aqua regia. Alrighty, I'm calling this done. Whether it really is or not, we'll find out. I mean, up till now, every single batch has had a little bit of base metal left in it. This nitric acid extraction has gone on longer, and I think used more nitric acid than any other so far in this project. And there's less material in here getting in the way of the acid, you know, so I'm hoping we've got the vast majority of the base metal in solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out of here, and I'm going to decant off the blue liquid and give what's left in the beaker a few rinses. And I'm going to set this liquid aside for now because it's really hot. It's just below boiling. Once it cools down a little bit, I'll filter it, and then we'll get to work on trying to recover the silver from it, because I think there's a fair amount of silver in there. Since we got 4 batches worth of IC chips silver in this liquid, so there should be a significant amount of silver there. At least I'm hoping. We'll see. So let me get this out and start working on it. All right, here we go. The lid off. Alright, so this beaker is still quite hot, so I'm going to slip my leather gloves on over my vinyl gloves here. And then we're going to just decant off this liquid here. I want to leave all the solids behind. Okay. I want to give this stuff a rinse or two and have a good look at it and see if I see any base metal in there. And the gold's still there. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see the gold. Okay. Let's get this back in the fume hood. Make some aqua regia. So this has had the blue liquid drained off. It's been rinsed a couple of times with distilled water. Now, I did note a couple of things while I was rinsing it. Number one, there's a lot less of that fine black precipitate, or fine black sediment in this stuff than there was in the last batch, which is a little odd since it all came from the same material. Let's see. Go a little bit more. Okay. I noticed the gold is really easy to see now that the bulk of the base metal is out of the way. So, anyway, this whole project, we've had a lot of leftover base metal at this point by the time we got to Aqua Regia, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is a little different. There might be some base metal in there. So I'm going to hit this pretty hard with the nitric acid. That's about 6 milliliters. 8. We start out with 10, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to need more to get all that gold into solution. If there's base metal left in there, that'll be a problem. Alright, so we'll let this stuff warm up and see what kind of a reaction we get. Okay, while we're waiting on that stuff in the fume hood to warm up, let me do a test on this stuff and see how much silver we've got. There should be a fair amount in here. So this is tap water. That's chlorine in it. Now I can see it from here. Oh yeah. Look at that. Look at how foggy that's gotten. That's silver chloride. So we've got a lot of silver in this liquid right here. So it's got to cool down. Yeah, it's still pretty darn hot. It's got to cool down before I can filter it. But I definitely want to filter it before I do anything with it. Well, this has had a chance to warm up a bit. Got a nice reaction going. So the gold's starting to go into solution. That's a beautiful thing. It's late in the afternoon. I'll just let this go overnight and deal with it tomorrow. Well, it's the next morning. This has been on low heat overnight. I swirled it around and I can still see some gold in there. So I've turned the heat up. I've rehydrated it with a little bit more muriatic acid, and I've put 4 more milliliters of nitric acid on it, and it's starting to bubble again. So yeah, I was afraid of that all that nitric acid I put in it yesterday would get used up putting whatever base metals left in there into solution, and yes, sure enough. So there's still gold there, so we'll let this cook. I'll check it again later today, see if all the gold's gone into solution. Meanwhile, I'm going to get started on filtering this stuff. This is the blue liquid that came off of the IC chip remains after the nitric acid extractions. In fact, this blue liquid contains all of the base metals extracted from all of the ICs in this project. So we tested this for silver a while back. It seems to be loaded with silver, but I need to filter it. It's got some sediment in it. It's got some sediment on the bottom. It's got something floating on top. So I need to filter it and get it good and clean, and we'll go from there. So while I'm waiting on the gold to go into solution, which it's doing quite nicely in there, we'll start working on the silver here. I gotta get this stuff filtered, and then I'm sure there's some residual nitric acid in here. We'll want to get rid of that, and I'll show you how we'll do that after filtration. And it looks like filtration is going to go fairly slowly. Something's plugging the filter, so we'll be back after it's done. Alright, this liquid is all filtered, and you're really lucky I didn't make you watch because it took a long time. Something in here really plugged up the filters. I actually had to change the filter a couple times, and it still took a long time to get all this filtered. So this is the blue liquid that I've been using to extract the base metals from the IC chips with nitric acid. This is the blue liquid that results. It's very rich in silver. In fact, this is very dense. Boy, that is heavy for almost exactly a liter of liquid. That is very heavy stuff. So I'm sure there's probably some residual nitric acid in here. And before I try to cement out the silver with copper, I want to neutralize that nitric acid. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to add some extra silver to it, which may sound a little crazy, but it's a way to do it without introducing any kind of impurities, getting any kind of really strong reaction going. I have had problems in the past with cementing silver where there's a lot of excess nitric acid in here. I'll get a really strong reaction when I put the copper in to cement it out, And what'll happen is the acid will etch the copper so bad it'll start pulling crystals of copper out of the copper I put in here for the cementation, and my cement silver on the bottom will wind up with a bunch of copper crystals mixed in with it. So what I want to do is I want to neutralize the nitric acid in here before I put the copper in to try and cement out the silver. So I'm going to add a little extra silver. I've got some cement silver here that I haven't yet melted down into bars, and this should probably be more than enough. If it's not, I have some bars I can put in too to neutralize it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weigh out a known amount of this silver, and then when we get the cement silver back out of it, I'll just subtract the amount I put in to neutralize, neutralize the nitric acid, and we'll know exactly how much silver I actually got out of this stuff. So I think I'm going to put in, I think I'm just going to go for 10 grams. That's a nice round number. 99, yeah, okay, we'll say 10.2 since I overshot a little bit. 10.2. So whatever we get out of this minus 10.2 grams is the actual amount we got out of it. Now this is really cold. It's chilly this morning. I'll get my little paintbrush and get a little bit of residue out of there. But I'm going to put this on the heat and see if we can get a reaction going. So I'll put this in the fume hood on a hot plate and warm it up and see if we can get any kind of reaction going. Alright, the mixture's on the hot plate, and I see some bubbling, and it's only been on there for a few seconds, so it hasn't had a chance to warm up yet, but there's some bubbling going on. So that silver is using up the leftover nitric acid in this stuff, and there's a little bit of silver stuck on the inside of this beaker, so I'm going to brush it out into here just so we get the full 10.2 grams in here. So yeah, I don't know if it's showing up. Let me zoom in a little bit. See the bubbling going on? So yeah, there is some excess nitric acid in there, and the silver's using it up. So that's a beautiful thing. Now if the reaction stops and I don't see any silver on the bottom of the beaker, I'll put a little bit more in. And I'll keep that up until the reaction's done. And then I'll know there's no more free nitric in there, and I can put a coil of copper wire in there. I got a big coil of number 8 copper wire ready to go. I'll drop it in there, and we'll get all the silver out of this solution, and whatever amount it is minus 10.8 is how much we got. Then over here, this stuff is almost done. This is the aqua regia. The reaction is really dying down. I will let it cook a little while longer, swirl it around, and look and see if I see any gold on the bottom of the beaker. And if not, we'll call it done. If I do see anything that looks like gold, add a little bit more nitric acid and let it cook a little while longer. But we're getting close to the end on this. In fact, we're getting close to the end on the whole project. The end is nigh, finally, for sure. We're going to have the last bit of gold, and eventually we're going to have some silver too. Well, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but we're getting some orange fumes above the liquid in there. So yeah, definitely we got a good reaction going on. That silver I put in there is eating up the residual nitric acid in there. So that's a beautiful thing. I'll just let that go for a while and check it and see if I need to put more silver in it, or if it looks like that 10.2 grams I put in there did the job. Okay, it's been a little while. I have stirred this a couple times. The reaction seems to have come to a halt. I've turned the heat off. Looked at the bottom of the beaker. There's still some of the silver I put in there. So 10.2 grams apparently was enough to use up all of the remaining nitric acid, because nothing much seems to be happening. So I think it's time to start cementing out the silver. So got a coil of number 8 copper wire here, and we will leave that in there. Well, there's a reaction going on. Lots of bubbling. This is ready to go. I'm going to get my sulfamic acid mixture together so we can denox it. So we turn the heat off. And denox it, I'll ice it, and then we'll be ready to filter it and drop the gold out of it. So we should have gold and silver. Wow, look at this reaction going on over here. I am glad I denoxed that with silver. Oh my God. Let me rearrange the camera and zoom in on that. We got a heck of a cementation reaction going on over here. It is just crazy. Yeah. The coils are already covered with silver. Yeah. I knew there was a lot of silver in there. So I'm going to let that sit. This is probably going to take a while for this vigorous reaction to finish. Look at the orange fumes. So yeah, we got quite the cementation reaction. This is still warm. I turned the heat off a while ago, but it's still warm, so that's probably why we've got such a vigorous reaction. If this was cold, it would have been a lot slower. But that's okay, it'll just be done quicker. Alright, so let me get my denoxing solution together and we'll get the other stuff denoxed. Okay, I guess I should have used a bigger beaker with more headspace, because we are in serious danger of boil over here. I took the watch glass off. That's knocked the head back down a little bit, but if this reaction doesn't slow down soon, I'll have to pull that copper coil back out. It seems to have stabilized now that I've taken the watch glass off. Wow, that is a reaction. Okay, I've done a lot of silver cementations, but I've never seen anything quite this vigorous. It's crazy vigorous. Wow. Okay. Let me get back to working on my denoxing mixture. Yeah, it's calming down some. Good. Yeah, weird. I don't know. Maybe the silver I put in there didn't actually do a very good job of denoxing it. I mean, there was still silver on the bottom of the beaker. It looked like most of it I put in was still there. But wow, look at that reaction. I just hope it's not tearing copper crystals out of the copper coil I put in there, or I'll have silver contaminated with copper again. Alright, this reaction has calmed down a lot. I've lit it back up. I have never tried to cement silver out of such a concentrated solution of silver nitrate before. So that may be the issue. Like I said, it was also warm. So a lot of nitrogen dioxide gas obviously was liberated in the process, so this has probably reacidified itself with nitric acid. So we're going to have to wait for that to burn off, basically, before the silver starts coming out of solution again. I could see it coming out in the beginning, but it all went right back into solution after the vigorous reaction started. Some sort of thermal runaway happened. You know, started out after I put the copper in, not much was happening, but boy, the reaction ramped up quick, and yeah, this got quite warm. So we'll just have to wait on that and see. Maybe by tomorrow we'll have something to show for it. We'll see. So it's time to denox this. Got my usual solution of saturated solution of sulfamic acid here. Ah, there we go. A little bit of a reaction. I was thinking there had to be some excess nitric acid in there, so yeah, there is some. So remember, see, there's the reaction, the bubbling, the fizzing. So remember, sulfamic acid, the way it works, it destroys the nitric acid in there, converting it into both nitrous oxide gas, which comes bubbling out of solution, sometimes violently if you put this stuff in too fast, and sulfuric acid. So we're getting some sulfuric acid in there for free. I don't have to add it. We wash the rest of this stuff in. Thoroughly denoxed now. Heat's been off for a while, so it's cooling down, but we're going to cool it down even more and dilute it with some ice. And of course it goes green. But I was expecting that. That's been par for the course for this whole project. Didn't quite get all the base metals out, even though I really tried on this one. That's not very green though. So that's good. Alright, I'm going to wait for that ice to melt. And then, I'm going to filter it and drop the gold. And hopefully we'll get some silver out of this mess over here too. That'd be nice. Okay, let's get this stuff filtered so we can drop the gold. Ice is all melted. This is nice and diluted. Got to be careful because it's cold and it's a little slick with condensation. Don't want to drop it. That would be bad. This is actually only slightly green, so I think I did a better job of getting the base metals out of this than I've done so far in this project. In fact, this is coming through very yellow, and by the looks of it, very clear. The filter's not catching much, so that's good. Alright, it's going to take me a while to filter this, and just like I've filtered every other batch. So, you know, I'll put the liquid through first, put the solids in, and then, you know, spritz it with a lot of distilled water to let the vacuum pull the pregnant solution out of the filter, out of the solids, and then dry everything out. So that's going to take, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. You don't have to watch it. Be back when it's done. Alright, filtration is done. It's very clear. I don't think I have to run it through again. It's only slightly green, so not as bad as I thought. I think I did a better job on this than any other batch in this project. So I got one more little drop coming, then I'm calling it. That drop's taking a long time. Okay. Let me get this stuff back in the beaker, which I have washed. It's nice and clean. And we will drop this gold. And see just how much we will get out of this batch. Now I was thinking, always dangerous, but I was thinking that, you know, the last batch had more gold in it than I was expecting. But then I remembered I had combined the oversized stuff with the material in that in the first half of this chip remains. You know, this is everything except the BGA chips, and I'm doing it in 2 batches, plus the oversized stuff. So I had combined the oversized stuff with that first half, so there may have been why there was more gold in there than I was expecting. So I'm not 100% positive we'll get quite that much gold out of this stuff. We'll just have to see what we actually do get. So, to put it in the fume hood, drop the gold. Alright, we're ready to drop the gold. This has calmed down a whole lot. It's still giving off, you know, a little bit of bubbling and a little bit of orange fuming, and there's a layer of something forming in the bottom, which I hope is relatively clean silver. I guess we'll see in the morning what we've got, because this is going to take a while to calm down, I'm sure. So, let's get this gold dropped anyway. Ooh, dry front come through. It's gotten windy and it's gotten quite chilly. My goodness, the temperature's dropped precipitously this afternoon. I am suddenly underdressed. That's okay. We'll get this gold dropping. I'll go in the house and just let things take their course over here. needs stump out. My source of sodium metabisulfite. I've been talking instead of counting, but I think that's 5 spoonfuls. We'll put that in there. We'll give it a little bit of a stir. And we'll see if that does the trick. That's a fair amount of SMB. Usually enough to get the job done. We'll see. If it needs more, I'll put more in later. As the mailman rolls up with packages. Let me go see what he's got for us. Well, in the time it took me to go collect the mail, it went dark. So that's good. Alright. So the gold is coming out of solution. It's going to settle to the bottom. Something's settling to the bottom of this one. Guess we'll find out what in the morning. And I think I'm going to go in the house. It's getting cold out here. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Well, good morning. It's the next day, and look what I found. There's a lot of gold floating on this, and there's a nice thick layer of gold on the bottom of the beaker, too. That is very pretty. Look at that. I've never seen that much dendritic gold floating on top of a beaker after a gold drop before. That is very cool. At least not with SMB. Sometimes if I'm using copperas, I get a lot of gold floating on top. But even with copperas, I don't think I've seen that much floating before. So what I will do is, let's see, maybe I can capture it on camera, is just hit it with a spray of distilled water, break the surface tension up, and see if I can get it to sink down to where the rest of the gold is. And then once it's all settled again, I will siphon the bulk of the liquid off and start cleaning up that gold. Okay, so I'm going to let the gold settle a little bit before I do anything with it, just so that the stuff I spritzed off the top has a chance to settle down and mingle with its friends at the bottom before I siphon the liquid off. Now as for this, there's still a little bit of a reaction going on, even though it's stone cold, it's the next day. I still see bubbles coming up off that coil in there. I got no freaking idea what's going on in here. There's a layer of something on the bottom of the beaker. There's a layer of something on the inside of the beaker. There's clearly some sort of reaction still going on. I'm thinking that the silver I put in there to try and denox this did not do a good job of denoxing. I was thinking about this overnight. The only thing I could think of that would explain that reaction I got when I put the coil in there was that there was still some free nitric acid in there, apparently a fair amount. So hopefully we've actually cemented something out. Let's take a look and see what the coil looks like. Oh yeah, look at the coil. It's got a lot of stuff on it. That looks like cement silver. It looks pretty dirty cement silver though. I think it's probably going to be contaminated with some copper. But we are getting some cement silver. Clearly the reaction is still going on because there's some bubbling coming up. And like I said, this is stone cold, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just heat it up so it warms a little bit, just so we can try and drive this reaction to completion. And maybe try and dry that stuff out that's cemented off and get a weight on it. I don't know. It's pretty goopy looking. I don't know. So, you know, if anybody out there in my audience has any idea exactly what happened here in this beaker, you know, I'm all ears. So, in the past, I have denoxed my silver-containing solutions with urea before trying to cement out the silver with copper, and that works fairly well, but I'm always reluctant to do it that way because I don't want the urea nitrate you know, mixed in with my cement silver. It's fairly insoluble. It comes out of solution. It falls to the bottom, mixes with the cement silver, throws off my yield calculations because it's in there mixed with the cement silver. But also, urea nitrate's an explosive, and I'm always worried that I'm going to have an explosion in my face when I'm trying to melt down my cement silver because it's got urea nitrate mixed with it. So, you know, I tried denoxing it by adding some silver powder to it. Seemed to work, but apparently I don't think it did. So, anyway, anybody's got some ideas about what happened, what I did wrong, what I could do better in the future, I'm all ears. Go ahead and leave a comment, send an email, whatever. And thanks in advance. Okay, so here's the recovered gold after siphoning off the bulk of the green liquid. So I will transfer this to a smaller beaker and start giving it distilled water boils, like always. Okay, I got the gold over here. It's warming up. Hasn't quite come to a boil yet, but it's warming up. And then over here, this is warming up too. I just turned the heat on a little bit because it's a very chilly morning, just to warm it up a little bit. And we've got quite a reaction going again. I don't know if it's showing up, but we got some bubbling going on, a little bit of fume production. So this clearly is not done yet. I'm just going to leave it on low heat until all of the activity in that beaker stops. It may take days, I don't know. So like I said, this may be a postscript. I don't think by the end of this video we're going to know how much silver I got. So we'll find out. But we're definitely going to find out how much gold I got. Okay, I've got the gold cleaned up. It's been boiled in distilled water 3 times. Going to dry it out so we can get a weight on it. This has still got a heck of a reaction going on. I think it's going to take days for it to finally whatever. I don't know what's going on in that beaker, but it's still going on. It shows no signs of stopping, so we'll just let it cook. I sure hope that when it's done there'll be a lot of silver in the bottom of the beaker, even if it's dirty silver. I can always redissolve it in a little bit of nitric acid and clean it up. So, the end is nigh. We'll get a weight on this gold here later today. Okay, I think it's about time to find out how much gold we got out of this last batch here. Come on. There we go. All right. Here we go. It's like just short of 2 grams. I was expecting it to be less this time because the last batch was actually the first half of the undersized stuff and all of the oversized stuff combined. So there was a lot of gold there. So, but still, just shy of 2 grams. That is not too shabby at all. So let's see, we've already got 6.15 grams out of this batch of chips. So add in this 1.91 grams we just got. That's 806. So that's quite a bit better than roughly 6 3/4 grams I was expecting to get. So yeah. Did pretty darn good on this lot of chips. I'm very happy. Okay, time to do a little figuring and see whether I actually made a profit, and if so, how much. Okay, it's the next morning. Before we start crunching numbers, let's have a look at this again. This has been on warm heat, just warm, not hot, just barely warm, all night. I'm still seeing bubbles coming up, a fair number of them actually. And then this is interesting. This at first looks like cement silver on here. Let me see if I can zoom in anymore. It kind of looks like cement silver on here, but it's not. Well, it may be silver, and it may technically be cement silver, but these are pointy, sharp shiny crystals. They're not the usual gray goop that you get with cement silver. These are tough little crystals. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, they're spiky. I don't know if some of the spiky ones are showing up down there or not. Yeah, very spiky. And then it looks like there's a lot of brown goop on the bottom, which I imagine is copper. I think. I don't know what else it might be. Copper seems logical. So, yeah, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. The silver recovery has kind of turned into a blooper reel for this this project. Hey, maybe I should make some blooper reels. I don't know what happened in here, but I'll tell you what, all the silver that was there is still there. So I will get it one way or another. Maybe I'll just dissolve all this mess back in nitric acid, denox it with some urea like I normally do, minimal amount, and bring it back out on a fresh piece of copper like I normally do. Or I could get into the whole convert it to silver chloride and then use lye and sugar to bring it back to silver. A lot of moving parts to that. I like to just get silver, you know. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. That's my blooper reel for this project. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks and look at the numbers. Okay, let's have a look at the numbers here. So I got 8.06 grams of gold out of this project. The price of gold currently is $58.86 per gram. It's gone up a little bit since I bought those chips. That's nice. It's actually taken me, a month and a half, better part of 2 months to do this, all these videos. And the price of gold's had a chance to go up a little bit. The current price of all the gold I got out of these chips is $474.71. Okay, what I paid for them on eBay was, the price plus shipping plus fees, but $315.65 is what I paid for them. Okay, and now let's take a look at the consumables. About a gallon of muriatic acid. I don't think I used a full gallon on this, but we'll just say I did. $8.50 for a gallon of muriatic acid. The HDX stuff I'm buying, the good stuff, available at Home Depot, anybody looking for it. Stump out about 3/4 of a bottle as best I can figure. Maybe not quite that much, but we'll just round it off to 3/4 of a bottle. I buy the bottles in bulk packs, so they're like $7.46 a bottle. So we'll say $5.60 worth of stump out, let's say. Nitric acid, that was a little trickier to keep track of because I had a couple of different projects going on, some of which you'll learn about in future videos, going on simultaneously. I may not have used a full 1 liter bottle of nitric acid on this, but we'll just say I did because it was probably pretty close. I know we finished off one and started another, but like I said, I was doing a couple of different things, but trying to keep track of it. Let's just say I used a full bottle. Each bottle costs me $37.98, so we'll throw that in there. Went through right about 2 gallons of distilled water. Again, it may not have been a whole 2 gallons. I think maybe I've got a little bit left in one of my bottles of distilled water, but again, the distilled water is not very expensive. I use a lot of it for rinsing. We'll just say 2 gallons of distilled water at $1.37 a gallon at Publix, so $2.74. Sulfamic acid. I buy that by the pound, $7.98. We'll say I used about 1/4 of a pound. Again, I kind of doubt I actually used that much, but we'll just round it off to 1/4 of a pound. So say it's about $2. Sulfuric acid. I actually didn't use very much sulfuric acid. Out of that half-gallon jug in there, just a little bit, but we'll say I used $1 worth. Miscellaneous. I may be a little bit undercounting the miscellaneous, but I think I've been overcounting everything else. So the only thing I can think of is, a few filters, basically. But I buy those in big packages, too. So a few filters, maybe $1's worth of filters, possibly. Broken glassware. There was none on this project. Yay! I have been a little rough on the glassware lately. I don't know why I'm so clumsy lately. I've gone through quite a few watch glasses and a couple of beakers recently, but I did manage not to break anything during this project. Not even off camera. Nothing broke. So didn't say I didn't come close. I think I got lucky a couple of times that nothing broke, but nothing broke this time. So no broken glassware to replace. So that's good. So my total consumables cost was $58.82. So if we add that to what I paid for the chips, that comes out to my total cost here was $374.47. So that means I made a profit of, just a hair over $100. Wow. Okay. Well, at least I'm in the green, and by a fair amount, too. That's not too shabby, actually. Although, you will notice, there is one thing that is not on this list that on any actual business balance sheet would occur, and that is labor. So, if I assigned a reasonable hourly rate to my labor for this project, boy, would I be in the hole down here. But, I'm retired. I do this in my spare time just for the fun of it. So, it didn't really matter that it took a long time to do it. But, if you were trying to do this as a business, no, you would be in the hole really quick just from the labor costs. The second biggest expense would be the nitric acid. So, yeah, I need to find a way to either use less nitric acid or get cheaper nitric acid or go back to making my own nitric acid, which I've got some R&D working on in that area, on making some dilute nitric acid, just so I don't have to drag out the whole big distillation apparatus to make, lots and lots of my homemade nearly 100% nitric acid, which works like gangbusters. It's just a kind of a pain in the butt to make, but, it does save me a lot of money when I do make it. So, yeah. So nitric acid is where I'm going to save a lot of money if I can trim back the use of that. All right, well, that was certainly an interesting project. It was fun. I learned a few things. I got a lot of gold, more than I was expecting, so that was nice. I hope you folks found it fun and learned a few things too. Would I do it again? Well, if I see a real bargain on eBay, I might go for it, but I don't normally buy chips on eBay. As you could see, I only made $100 profit, basically, after all this work. Normally, I get my chips, from depopulating boards that I get for free, basically, from scrap pickups. So, I was talking about how the biggest expense on there was nitric acid. No, the biggest expense was really acquiring the chips. And getting the chips for free is how you really make a decent profit at this, not buying them on eBay. Now again, this is a hobby. This is not so much a business, although I would like to maximize my profits as much as possible. So if I do see an outrageous bargain on eBay again, I might go for it, especially if I think I can put some of the chips to a second use, like in my retro computing projects, or even for resale. If I test them, they're good, I can package them and resell them or something and get some more money out of them that way. But generally, I don't buy chips on eBay just to process them for the gold, because the profit margin is too slim. I think I got a little bit lucky this time. I think this batch of chips was even better than it looked. I got lucky a couple ways. First off, the seller took the legs off. The seller peeled off the tops of the Gold Corner BGAs and just sold me those. And there was, I think, a better mix of chips in there than even the photos showed. So I got really lucky, and I think that the DDR RAM chips and the Gold Corner BGA tops really pushed me over in the second half of the material. I was pretty spot on the amount of material I estimated for the BGA RAM chips. The first couple of batches I processed, I was, within like 1/8 of a gram of my estimate. And I started thinking, okay, well, I'm just barely going to squeak by with a profit here, but, I did pretty good because The second half was of the material, everything besides the VGA RAM chips, was a little richer than I was expecting. So that's good. But again, I got lucky. You can't expect it. I've bought batches of chips on eBay in the past, and they have been crap. So that's why I don't normally buy chips on eBay anymore, because number one, you don't know what you're getting, and number two, even if you do get something good, the profit margin is pretty slim. But it's up to you, whether you want to do that. I think I'm going to stick to processing the chips I get from depopulating boards. I've still got most of a 5-gallon bucket full of mixed IC chips back there, some of which have, and I've got a big bowl of them that I've already incinerated. I just need to finish processing them. That's all been put on hold while I worked on this project, so I can get back to that. And as for this stuff, well, I know there's not going to be a huge amount of silver there, so a few dollars worth maybe, but I just want to be able to figure out how to get it out of that soupy mess that we've got going on in there. It's very interesting that they're growing out, the silver crystals are growing out of the copper coil as long dagger-like spikes, tough ones too. You could really put one through your finger. It's not the fluffy, muddy cement silver you normally see. They're coming out as these long, shiny, sharp spikes. It's very neat. Look like cactus spines, some of them. But yeah, that's a little strange. I'll keep working with that. It may become another video, or it may not, depending. I don't know. I would like to get the silver out of it. So we'll see what happens in that department. Keep watching. Yeah, tune in for future videos. Subscribe to see those future videos, because I got more coming. I've already filmed some others that are in the can and going to be released soon. And I got another major project around the corner here that you haven't even seen anything of yet. There's going to be another series of videos coming out. So thanks for watching this series. Subscribe to see the future videos, and press that little bell icon that YouTube makes you press. And thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.